Oh, what is going on, everyone? Live from the Hilton Santa Clara here, just outside of Levi's Stadium, getting set for Week 5 between the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal with you. Brought to you, as always, by Habas Law. Call 1-800-HABAS. Get it right. Habas Law will fight to make it right. Lorenzo, first and foremost, glad to have you back, brother.
Hey, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. Was down there checking it all out and watching the game last week, and it was a huge win for the Niners. They need a much-needed win. But, man, it's exciting. I mean, you're coming back to San Francisco and here in San Jose and looking at Levi's and watching the fans start to come in, and you just feel, hey, this team understands and the fans understand. It's not a big party atmosphere. It's just kind of like sobering, like, hey, we're not where we need to be. We're not where we're supposed to be, but we're here. We're going to try to keep the wheels on the tracks and try to ride the ship. So that's kind of just a different kind of feel today.
Well, I was going to say, it's supposed to be a hot one. It's supposed to be the hottest game in the history of Levi's Stadium.
Wow.
It's supposed to get up to about 100 degrees by kick. So if you're coming on by, stop by Hilton Santa Clara, grab a drink, get refreshed, get hydrated before you head in for the Niners to take on the Cardinals. And it's an interesting place, Lo, because the Niners here in Week 5 are 2-2. The Cardinals are 1-3. But the Cardinals have a couple losses to a Seattle team, to a Buffalo group that's pretty good. The Niners' losses, of course, would come to the Los Angeles Rams, and the Minnesota Vikings are now 5-0. They're in interesting places, but division matchups are always interesting as well. I think the Niners, to me, they're in an interesting place because they're about a quarter of the way done with their season. If we are to evaluate them, they certainly have not played their best football yet, but there just seems to be something a little off about this team right now that I'm hoping they can correct against the Cardinals group, that no matter how good they've been, for whatever reason, they've seemed to give the Niners fits in the past.
Oh, no question. Cardinals just match up. Styles make fights. We talked about that. We talk about great boxing matches. Ali, Frazier, the rumbling. Those fights were always classic when you had the rematches, Gotti and Turo Gotti, and watching those fights, were the back-to-back fights, and it always looked for a dogfight. And that's what with the Cardinals. The Cardinals, Seattle, it's always interesting just watching the Niners when they play. And you saw the Rams here several weeks ago. We go back and you kind of recapping what you're talking about. You had a Rams team that was pretty much decimated. Yeah, the Niners had an injury. You had Debo, and you don't have some of your guys, but you went down there and pretty much in a home game. The stadium was full of red. The Niners faithful, they traveled well, and you played a Rams team that was decimated on offensive line down to the third and fourth string, a mag-shift offensive line, and you got beat up. You got pushed around. You didn't win that game, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And you say, okay, we got to bounce back. You're able to bounce back. So when I look at this team, and I look at a team at 2-2, and looking at how they played this year, yes, I thought they played well against the Jets. Besides the Jets, I don't think this team has played close to what they can play to and what expectations are. It's like a fighter watching a Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali when they, in their heyday, when they would throw that right hand, like you and I talked about, knock guys out. They would just, boom, one hit, Mike Tyson knock. Then later on in their career, they're still throwing the right, but it's not having the effects that it had. That's what this Niner team feels like. They don't have the effect that it usually has. When they usually land a two-piece, they're up by 14, and you can shut the door because then it's a sea of red and they're coming to get you. But it's just right now, this Niner team, to me, in my personal opinion, something's a little off. They're still fighting. They're still throwing the right. It's just not having that knockout effect. So with that, I'm going to give this team a C.
Well, and I think a C grade is appropriate. Number one, because they haven't looked their best. Number two, they've been bitten by injuries. They're not whole yet. And so a C from the standpoint of their play and their productivity, but also just how they look right now, how they've been playing, how they've been performing. And it looks like they are going to have somewhat of a full complement of characters this week. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Fred Warner, who got hurt last week, didn't finish the second half against the Patriots, is likely going to be active today. And we'll get you updated with all the actives and inactives as they roll out up until 1 o'clock kickoff between the Niners and the Cardinals. But last week, it was funny. You talk about the Patriots being a get-right game. No. I thought the Rams was a get-right game.
So do I.
The Patriots was a you-better-get-it game.
Yeah.
And they did, to their credit. But to your similar point, talking about going up 14, that knockout blow not necessarily being there. They're able to knock out the Patriots, but the Patriots were a team that came into the ring with wobbly legs.
Right.
They came in basically looking to get knocked down, and the Niners did so. So if you're looking at that game last week, to me, it was impressive that Brock Purdy was able to air the ball out. It was impressive that they can get back to the ground game offensively. It was impressive that they had 6 sacks. But now, can they build? Can they stack on that performance? Because so far they've been a roller coaster ride where they look great against the Jets, blew it against the
Rams,
obviously, the Vikings, not so great, and then last week, who are the 49ers right now? We're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no question, Evan. It's the inconsistency of it. It's sort of like, when a champ gets beat in a fight, they usually have a tune-up fight. They say, okay, let's get that tune-up fight so I can get myself right, and that's that get-right game. And you know what? I got beat by the Rams. You said, okay, that was supposed to be a tune-up fight to get them right to go, and because they lost, to a good team, Minnesota. Minnesota's still undefeated. So you lose to Minnesota, and you say, okay, as a defending champ, let's just give them a tune-up game. Let's give them a tune-up fight just to get their skills back together, and let's throw the Rams out there. Well, the Rams turned that into a dogfight and turned into a fight and ended up winning on all the scorecards and ended up not knocking the Niners out, but just beat them in a fight, in a slugfest. So, hey, okay, so bam, you have another fight. You go play against, a team that you talk about, New England, that's already was wobbly, and New England was still able to move the ball and do some effective things on the Niners. Go look and watch the way they ran the ball. Watch the way they were moving the ball. There's a couple plays that, the Niners needed to make, and granted, they made them, but it wasn't like that's the part that baffles me. The inconsistency against the run. They have not really shut down the run with consistency besides the first game against the Jets. Besides that, you go look at how teams have been having success running the ball, creating a new line of scrimmage. Hargraves is out. It's like, okay, this team has to be more sound, technique sound, getting there in the gaps, doing the things you need to do to kind of just to put fans and put yourself, because you can't be happy with the way you're playing defense. You can't be happy because even though you played the Rams and you said you were injured, okay, you had Kittle and Debo, but you had a receiver in Jennings that did what Debo would have done. For that game, maybe more. Yeah. So, and you still were able to score 20-some points and you still didn't win that ball game. So I don't think it's time for alarm, and nor is it time to panic. But it is time to find out and say, what is going on? Because we ran, the defense coordinator last year and said it was a D coordinator. Mm-hmm. What's the excuse now? Because your defense has got to get off the sty. They got to play better. They got to get more consistent. Fred Warner's been carrying that defense. You got to have more solid play out of your defense, and hopefully get to see it today.
Well, that's what I find fascinating about this iteration of the 49ers is that the side of the ball that's been the most impressive is not the side of the ball that's been the most healthy. Now, I know the defense is missing Greenlaw. Now Hargrave heads out for the season. You had Hufanga come back in week 3. So they were missing a couple of pieces, but overall, this defense is close to as consistent or close to returning the full group from last season. The big difference was the coordinator, who was supposed to be, quote-unquote, the problem. The defense has been the most inconsistent side of the ball, along with, and you talk about this all the time, Lo, special teams.
Yeah.
There has been, even in the Patriots game, there has been something each and every week that has hurt the 49ers in special teams, whether it's the missed go-ahead kick against the Rams, a pump block against Minnesota, a fumble coming out of halftime against New England. There have been critical errors in special teams, and while they haven't hurt the Niners in every game, I'm looking at defense, I'm looking at special teams, and they have not been as buttoned up as they were a year ago.
No, by no stretch of imagination. And with that being said, Evan, you're not good enough to play bad on those teams and think you're going to win ball games, especially win ball games consistently. Because, newsflash, the league is different, and the league has changed. There's a lot of different faces on a lot of different teams, a la Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold, who was here last year, that was on your team. Now he's competing against you, and he beat you. So you can't look at this and say, oh, the Niners are getting to the Super Bowl. That's what everyone wants to do, and that's what they want to crown them. You want to crown them. But what we've seen thus far this year, you cannot sit here and say that the Niners are the cream of the crop in the NFC. If you do it, you're lying. If you say they are, then you're lying, and you're mistaken, and you're fooling yourself. Do I believe this team has the potential and the players to be a dominant team? Yes, because they do. But for some reason, it's not translating on the field. They're taking turns, making mistakes, especially when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. I say it all the time. Offense counts as a third, defense counts as a third, and special teams counts as a third. And right now, you look at the offense, it's cooking, it's making some plays. But at times, let's face it, Brock Purdy, he has taken over games with his legs and kept third downs. He has been a huge factor for this team, especially when they're talking about on third down and 3 or 4, when nothing's there, him pulling the ball down and taking off, picking up 7 or 8 to keep the chains going, which ends up turning into a touchdown. So I just think that this team, they got to, and I guarantee you, Kyle Shanahan is saying that, we got to clean up some things, guys. We got to clean up this thing.
Well, and that's why this is a big game. Not from the standpoint of, okay, it's going to end the season or make the season, break the season. But you want to stabilize the ship a little bit. You want to right this thing to the point where heading into a short week against a division foe in Seattle, you feel confident going into that game. Looking behind that, Kansas City, Dallas. If we're just looking at what the Niners can do between now and the bye week, which ideally is around the time, potentially, they could get a Christian McCaffrey back coming off bilateral Achilles tendonitis. That's when you start to think about, all right, this team can get to another level. But until then, you got to take care of business. And the Arizona Cardinals, although they're 1-3, they're not some shoddy team. This is
they'll beat you
if that has a Jekyll and Hyde effect. That if you catch Mr. Hyde on the wrong day, or if you catch Jekyll on the wrong day, they can walk in your house and beat you.
No question. And you're talking about a team that Arizona 1-3 could have very well beat Buffalo Bills beginning of the year. 100%. Double digit up by double digits, and they found a way to lose. They're looking at their schedule saying, we're 1-3. The Niners are what? 2-2? Yep. So is it that much of a disparity? How am I going to you think I'm going to be if a guy's I got 1 win and the guy's got 2 wins and we both pretty much I'm looking at it saying, dude, I can beat this dude. I'm getting ready. So Arizona's saying the same thing. They're looking at it and saying, hey, this isn't the same 49er team. Let's go in here and we punch this bully in the mouth. This isn't the Kansas City Chiefs, guys. There's no mistakes about it. Look at Kansas City. They struggled right now. Kansas City Chiefs could easily be 0-4, but they have that MJ effect. That teams just okay. It's Michael Jordan. They pose a win. What happens? The Chargers last week kick a field goal. They're up. A couple minutes left. They decided to go for it. You look the week before that. The Atlanta Falcons should have kicked the field goal, maybe go up, but they didn't. The Ravens catch that touchdown in the end zone, you go for 2, you win the game. But you have to realize, though, the Kansas City Chiefs still find a way to win ball games because they are the champs. So, yes, people can say, oh, well, Kansas City's struggling. Yes, but Kansas City's still finding a way to win. The Niners struggle, but they haven't found a way to win, and especially win against the good teams.
And I think that's the most important part of this is, although the Niners are not playing their best, neither are the Chiefs.
No.
And we throw the Chiefs into this conversation because that's where the Niners expect to be. They have Super Bowl aspirations. And I don't want to dampen that. This is still a team that I believe can win a Super Bowl.
Right.
But they need to do things to get back onto that track because unlike a lot of other groups, whether they're undefeated like the Vikings or maybe they're not having the greatest kind of season or greatest start like the Cowboys or a team that has Super Bowl aspirations but hasn't necessarily been able to start off on the right foot like the Bengals who are 1-3 and currently playing the Ravens. The Niners have players.
Yep.
And so if you can find a way to get on the right side of 500 today, along with the fact that you have guys getting whole, you have guys coming together, you have guys getting healthy throughout an entire 17-week season, now you feel a bit better about those Super Bowl aspirations. It's not gonna right itself in one day. But the Niners, to me, have not showed enough consistency for us to yet compare them to a Kansas City Chiefs group. Both teams have not played their best, but the Chiefs are the team that's found a way to win, and the Niners are a team that has not.
You go look at the Chiefs. Baltimore Ravens, one of the best running teams in football. Would you agree?
100%.
Did they run the ball great against the Chiefs? No. You go look at the Chargers the last several weeks when they've been playing. First game, look at how Dobbins, look how they've been running the ball. Did they have that kind of success against the Chiefs?
They did not.
That's the thing. But you go look at the Niners, and yeah, the Chiefs have struggled. But you got one side of the ball doing what it needs to do to give its offense a chance to win ball games. That's not what's happening. The offense, if you look at the Chiefs' offense and you look at the Niners' offense, they're probably scoring about the same. But the difference part, and that's what I always say, offense entertains, but defense wins championships. When you look at Spags and what he's doing with that defense, in spite of Mahomes and those guys struggling, hadn't, only 5 touchdowns since I think it was 2021 or 20, one of the slowest starts that he's had, but they're 4-0. Because the defense has allowed them to get the ball back. The defense has given the Kansas City Chiefs more chances than the opponent, and they're staying ahead of the sticks on defense, and that's why one team's 4-0, and the Niners, who's trying to make it back, is 2-2. Because if you look at it, what I just explained and described to you, the Niners haven't been able to stop the run and allow teams to punt the ball back to this offense for them to get ahead by double digits, for them to get ahead and stay ahead and make teams one-dimensional. Teams stay two-dimensional against the Niners, and that's why they're in these ball games.
Well, and I think the Niners obviously have a ton of talent on defense.
Of course.
Their special teams, to me, has been lackluster because of lack of attention to detail. And that's where I also think the Niners, like, when you watch them play, you see all these all-pros. Maybe not this year because a few of them have been hurt, but in recent years, you see the all-pros, you see the Pro Bowlers. And I just think it took people's minds off of, or eyes off of the fact that they were a very buttoned-up, class-personified, detail-oriented team. That has not been this group so far. And I think through the first 4 weeks, that's a result of rust. Not an excuse. Maybe it's a Super Bowl hangover. Maybe it's all the distractions from the offseason, not having certain guys in camp, not having guys in preseason, not having guys available due to injury. But I think that rust has shown that they are not as detail-oriented right now to begin this season as they were last year. Okay, now you have 4 weeks. Month is in the book. Put it behind you.
Right.
Now, essentially, is to me where the season truly starts for the Niners if they are to go on what we believe to be a Super Bowl run, because this part of the season is where you get the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, then you get to your bye, then you try to get healthy. But the Niners through the first 4, it's almost as if they're putting the key in the ignition low, and they're turning it, and it's revving,
Right.
it's revving, but it's not quite turning on yet. Today, I want to see them turn that key right. I want to hear that rev, and I want to see that car go.
Oh, yeah. To me, it's like you put your car, you're at the top of the hill. The Niners before the season, when you think about it, it's a team that's on the top of the hill, and Kansas City's just a little bit higher up, but the Niners in NFC, top of the hill. And you're getting ready to go downhill. When the season's getting ready to start downhill, you want to go downhill. But the thing about it is you're going downhill with flat tires. And if you're going downhill with flat tires, guess what? You're not going to get down that hill as fast as you can. If you only have only three tires that are full and the fourth one's deflated, you got problems. Mm-hmm. If three of them are deflated, you got bad problems. So when you think about that, that's how I'm looking at it. This team was on the top, and it started downhill. You're like, man, this first 4 games with the Rams, with the Jets, and you think about who you're playing. Looking at the teams that's on the schedule, and you say, okay, you knew that Team New England you should handle. The Rams with all the things that are going on, you knew you should handle. A team that should have been going downhill at 4-0. Now you're getting ready to go uphill, but after this week, you're getting ready to go uphill, and you're going to have 4 tires on they're fixed now.
Yeah.
You got them. They're all filled. Your tires been rotated. But guess who you got? You got Dallas Cowboys. You got the Kansas City Chiefs. So now your car is going to be fixed. But now you have a perfectly running tuned car. But now you're getting ready to go uphill, and you're going uphill next to some teams that are they're perfectly in perfect condition too. So that is the question that we got to see. How is this team going to perform today? Because today, to me, is that gut check. Meaning, if the Niners go out here and win 38-10, it wouldn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. If they go out here and play down to Arizona and Arizona beats them, you're like, oh my goodness, that's what we thought. And you wouldn't be shocked if Arizona hung with them and it was a great game and it had to go down to the final final seconds and the Niners kicked the field goal. Be like, man, they played down. But what that will tell me is the clock, or whatever, however you want to say it, the attention to detail, the internal clock, the preparation hasn't turned on yet. Mm-hmm. Because that'll tell me you're not on there as a punt team, kickoff return team, special teams, that you're saying, look, who's not in their lane? Okay, let's get this thing. The attention to detail. Hey, offense, who's missing the block? What happened here? Defense, how do we not create a new line of scrimmage? Who left their gap control? Where's those small things? Let's fit these holes. Let's get these fits. Let's do all those things. If we see that today, then the Niners win by 20. If you don't see that today, then this team has not understood. Look, you can't just walk out and say, I'm the champ, I'm going downhill, I haven't rotated my tires in 5 years, and I just supposed to go down this hill full speed. Them tires, if you haven't been rotated, that front end just starts to shake and you're like, oh, it's going to rattle apart. You have to fix the things you have to fix for your car to run right. It goes to show you talked about it, this Niner team have so much talent. It's lacking talent. It's attention to details, those small things. So I want to see if they can get those things fixed before they start this uphill climb.
Well, and look, people are burning rubber coming into the parking lot right now. And
burn rubber on me!
If you want to slide by the Hilton Santa Clara, say what's up to Lorenzo, Neal, Evan Giddings, our guy Joe Hawks here on site. All brought to you by Habas Law. This is the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game. Please do. It's a great party. It's a great time. Bring the sunblock. Bring the water. Bring whatever libation you prefer. Have a good time. Pull up to the Hilton Santa Clara and enjoy a fantastic pregame setup before the Niners take on the Arizona Cardinals Week 5 here right outside of Levi's Stadium. You know, the thing you also talked about with regard to the Cardinals, it's almost like it's a reflection of last week because it was really hard for me to judge their performance against the Patriots. I thought Brock Purdy looked great. I thought the defense looked much improved, and the defensive line specifically has had some issues. But if you can't do it this week against the Cardinals, and specifically winning the football game, last week doesn't mean anything to me.
No.
That win means nothing. But if they win this game, if the defensive line shows they've turned a corner, if they're able to find a way to bottle up a very dangerous Kyler Murray who can kill you with his arm and his legs, if you're able to continue to run the football against a Cardinals team that also has had its issues with stopping the run, well, then last week against the Patriots does indicate something to me because they took care of business. They beat them by 17. They had they're 2 for 4 in the red zone. That's an area of this football team that might need to improve a little bit moving forward. But again, this week makes last week mean more.
Right.
And the Patriots game to me was something that was a little, I got to wait and see what you do against a divisional foe. Because the other part of this too, Lo, is the fact that if you lose this game today, you are 0-2 to begin the NFC West. This is a divisional matchup. And these games, while they can kind of get a little bit wonky, they mean more.
Yeah, they do.
And you do not want to fall behind 2-0 in what is looking like a very competitive NFC West.
Oh, it's very competitive. And if you had to say, hey, I'm going to slot these teams in NFC West, and that's one thing about the difference is, and you're the same way. I don't play homer ball. I'm not going to go and say, hey, dog, this team, they're the best team in the NFC West, or they're going to get it all fixed. No, I want to say that, but let's be real. The Seattle Seahawks is the best team in the NFC West right now. They're playing the best ball right now. Offensively, they can score. You saw what them in the Motor City against Detroit Lions. That game's still going. They have a chance to win. If neither defense could stop either.
Track meet.
But that was a track meet. But you look at Seattle. If you can't score 21 against Seattle, you're losing that game on the road. Let's be real. So we're not going to get into that. But I'm just saying right now, if you're looking, you would have to say it's Seattle. You would have to say the Rams found a way to beat you. So you can't say we're better than the Rams. You can't say it right now. Yeah. How can you say it when you lost to them? In their house, but with all Niner fans there darn near. So if you're just looking, how do are they the third? Are they the fourth? Think about that. Is this Niner team right now, if you just said, I'm just going to rank the NFC West, I know you will say right now, Seattle, you have to give Seattle what they've done thus far. You got to say they won.
Seattle has been the most impressive team in the NFC West.
Now,
I think the Niners still can be a better team
than them. But I'm just saying,
But
what
they're
have you
4
seen?
games.
What have you seen? Can they be a better team? Yes. Do they got more talent? Yes. Have they been battle tested way more? Yes. But you can't tell me, Evan, that you and if you can, then let's have this conversation and let's get fired up and let's bring it. Because I can't say today, right now, that the Niners are playing better ball than Seattle. I can't say it, and I won't do it. And you know what? I can't say they playing better ball than the Rams because 2 weeks ago, the Rams kicked your butt with backup offensive linemen. So that brings us to today. That's why today is a huge barometer to see what's going on, and that's why they need to play big against this Arizona team.
So, no, I'm with you. Sorry, one sec. I just got to check the timer.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
No.
I got a little fired up. It's 11:26.
26. Appreciate you. This is the Kickoff Show. I want to continue that on the other side.
Yes.
And this is why I want to take a break right now. We'll come back, get our thoughts together, and have this conversation. Who's playing the best in the NFC West? Who looks the best in the NFC? Because the San Francisco 49ers right now, I believe, have an opportunity to prove that they are still one of those teams that I believe them to be.
Well, Evan, can we take it to the callers, too, and they can get in? Can they chime in? Hit the text line 955-999.
888-957-9570. 888-957-9570. If you want to hop on that text line, let us know what you're thinking about where the Niners are at after 4 weeks, beginning week 5 at 1:05 today at Levi's Stadium against the Cardinals. Please do. That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. We are live at the Hilton Santa Clara down here in Santa Clara.
Woo!
Brought to you by Habas Law. Call 1-800-HABAS-LAW. We'll fight to make it right. Also, check out habaslaw.com for more information. We're back after this on 95.7 The Game. All right, Lorenzo Neal alongside Evan Giddings with you here. This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law, live from the Hilton Santa Clara, right outside Levi's Stadium, Week 5 between the 49ers hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Well, I love your passion, Lo, and I want to pick up right where we left off. No.
I get a little fired up. Let me calm down. I get a little fired up at times because I'm so passionate about this game.
That's the whole point of this, though. We got to bring the love with the passion, with the emotion, man.
Okay, thank you, Evan. Thank you. Let's go, baby.
No, but it's a simple question. Who has been the best team in the NFC West through 4 weeks? Because the team currently atop the table is the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers, in my opinion, can prove today with a win against the Cardinals. Now, I guess they got to beat Seattle next week on Thursday night. But to me, I'm still not ready to say yet that the Niners aren't the best team. It just maybe I'm sipping the 49er juice out here. Maybe I'm seeing too many McCaffrey jerseys walking around and I'm hoping he can come back in a few weeks. Maybe I'm seeing the Brock Purdy's, the 13s rolling through the parking lot. Maybe I'm feeling the vibe of Levi's Stadium too much, Low. Maybe I'm sipping a little Homer juice. But I do feel like the Niners, to me, even though they haven't played their best, I don't know. I'm still not willing to hand the mantle to the Seahawks.
I'm not trying to, by no stretch of imagination, trying to hand the mantle to the Seahawks. Evan, what I'm trying to do is temper expectations. I'm just going to, talk about a guy who even kids know, Mike Tyson. Everyone feared him. He was the most fierce man on the planet. And when he walked in the ring, you said, oh, this guy is going to kill you. He's going to knock you out. And he usually did that. Even after he lost fights, why was the odds still in his favor? Because you had that vision of him. So even though he became a shell of himself, and I'm not saying that the Niners are a shell of themselves, but I am saying there's something off. I am saying because we've seen what they did last year and the year before and how they've been right there knocking at the door, they went out and, said, hey, brought in Coleman, said, let's get better defensively. And you said, okay, let's bring in some different guys that's going to help our defense. Floyd, Leonard, you brought in Floyd. You said, let's bring in other guys to make this team better up front. So you did those things. So you think, okay, this is Mike Tyson again. They're back. And now they throw that, you like, woo, that right hook. You watch them air box and you watch go through training camp. You watch them throw those punches. Like, woo, that hit you. That's going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Now when they go in a game, they throw that right that we're used to them throwing, and all of a sudden teams are still able to, they shake it off and like they ain't going down. They might wobble, and it's an 8 count, but by golly, they're hitting you back. So I'm just not going to say, you can say it and say, oh, the Niners are the best team because of what they've done, what previously they've done. But right now, you have to show me. Mm-hmm. And for you to sit here and say, oh, they're the best team in the NFC West right now, I think it's premature. We can't say that because the record doesn't show that, because Seattle's got a better record. You played the Rams 2 weeks ago. They found a way to beat you. Even though you played in L.A., you had more fans there than the Rams, and they still found a way to beat you. So when you're saying for you to just dismiss the Rams and dismiss Arizona, and I hope the Niners don't think like you're thinking, Steven, because if they dismiss Arizona, you get kicked in the face today and you lose this game, or you turn this into a street fight, and who wins this game? So because if you give Kyler Murray a chance and you let him stick around and he wears your defense out in the fourth quarter, he's running around and your defense is tired, that's a problem. That's why you have to go ahead and take care of these guys early and hit this team and knock them out. So when you're saying, yeah, I know Seattle's there. Yeah, they beat the Rams, but that really doesn't count because the Niners were injured. By golly, Steven. Now I'm calling you Steven. By golly, Evan, the Rams had injuries and more crucial injuries in crucial spots, and they still found a way to win. So let's be honest. So if I had to go by pure record and by what I can say today, just what I can say today, and fans call in and check the big fella. Check O'Neal if you think that I'm off. Today is to see who's the worst team in the NFC West.
That is
that a hot take?
That is hot from O'Neal. So
tell me why. What have you? I'm just saying for what we've seen thus far, and what's been put out there, And what's in front of us? Why do you differ from me?
So this is actually why I love football, because number one, we can have these conversations and it's all good moving forward, but also because the 49ers are look, they kicked the crap out of the Patriots last week. The Patriots damn near beat the Seattle Seahawks in overtime in New England. That was a game the Seahawks, if they are a team that I believe them to be better than the Niners, they should have taken care of business against them. In the same breath, I also feel like the Niners are a team that get waxed even further against Detroit last week, the way the Lions looked against Seattle.
Let me ask you a question. When's the last time the Niners won in Minnesota?
Oh, 1992.
Okay, so why are you saying because Seattle played in Minnesota? What happened when the Bengals went to Minnesota? I mean, went to New England. They lost. So all I'm saying, I get what you're saying, but sometimes the team at home, they play better. That's why it's called home field advantage. So I do understand but they found a way to win. Have the Niners found a way to win the games that they supposed to win? And in my opinion, and you know what, Steve? You know what, E? You could be right. In my opinion, Evan, they have not found a way to win the game they supposed to win. The Rams game, no matter what.
Yeah.
I just think they should have won that game.
No, I'm 100% with you. There's no excuses for losing that game, especially being up 14 in the second half of the way they were. Because it wasn't as if it was a rock fight from the start. Like, they came out, tried to step on their throat, and evidently didn't crush the jugular.
Right.
So that is a game in which they collapsed, in which they choked, in my opinion. So that's a damning loss. The thing about the Niners to me, and the biggest difference, I think, between Seattle and the Niners as they currently stand, it's coaching. Mike McDonald has done a fantastic job so far in Seattle of getting a defense that has looked inept, that has looked unphysical, that has looked really just like a bottom feeder, especially in the trenches the last few years, even with as great of a coach as Pete Carroll is. They have not looked great defensively. He has gotten that group to buy in because I think their offense is largely unchanged. Yeah. They have a really talented set of running backs, one of the best wide receiving cores in football, and their offensive line is, average behind Geno Smith. The Niners, meanwhile, for whatever reason, and I'll also throw Kyle Shanahan in here because this isn't just on Nick Sorensen. In my opinion, if you are the head of the snake, if you are the leader of this group, Kyle Shanahan, you got to be better. There has to be more accountability from this coaching staff, and I don't want to just throw everything in Nick Sorensen. I think a lot of people have, and we talked about it earlier because everyone, including the head coach, wanted to point the finger at Steve Wilks last year. Right. Well, right now, come week 5, I want to point the finger at the head coach because your group on special teams has been unbuttoned, your group on defense has been inconsistent, and your offense has been banged up, but you've been able to extract points out of many different iterations of wide receivers, of running backs, of even quarterbacks. So why hasn't it fit together yet?
That's a great question, and I'm telling you right now, I'm with you. And if Cal's driving in, listening to the show, I'm gonna tell him it's on him. But it's not about him going to the players and jumping on the players and jumping and getting in their face. That's not the answer, because that's not the problem. The problem lies with the coaches, and I'm telling you. You talked about the talent. You talked about all the different weapons this team has. It's attention to detail. You talked about it earlier in the show, the fine night, doing the little things right. It's attention to detail. Mm-hmm. And Kyle Shanahan, as the leader of this team, he knows he can coach his butt off. You know this guy is he can scheme you up, and he's so creative. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's got to get his coaches to sound the alarm. He's got to get his coaches to get in there and start coaching these players and be in their face and rewind tape and say, that's not good enough. He's got to go back to the beginning and say, coaches, you're not doing your job. And guess what? I'm not doing mine because I'm not coaching you hard enough. I'm not holding you guys accountable because I know the talent that we have in this room. And I know the men that we have on this team. These men can win, and they've shown you they can win, and they can play against any team, and it never gets, the stage doesn't get too big for them. What is going on? What has happened to us? We're getting beat off the ball. We're not in gap control. We're missing field goals and extra points. We're freaking letting teams freaking drive the ball, run the ball. Why? Guys are out of position. Guys are arm tackling, out of position. We're giving up this. We're giving up that. Why? Because we're not attention to details. It's not that we're not talented enough. It's not that we don't have the players. But coaches, you're not doing your job. You're letting these players down, and you're letting them settle for mediocrity, and that's not what it's going to take to win a championship. We can't just turn on the lights and wave the magic wand, and we go out here and win. We have to fight. Teams are gunning for us. They don't care if we're the San Francisco 49ers. We have to be more buttoned up, because if we're buttoned up, guess what? We're hard beat. If we're buttoned up, you're not going to beat us. I love our chances, but we're not buttoned up. You know that. And until they get buttoned up, they're going to continue to struggle, and they're going to be in these games that could be a lot more easier and a lot less challenging until they get buttoned up. So I don't care how much talent you got. Talent does mean nothing if you can't get in the right position. You can't do the things you need to do.
And talent is good enough to beat a team like the New England Patriots. Talent should have been good enough to beat a team like the Los Angeles Rams. But talent is littered all over the NFL. There's a reason these guys are playing and making the kind of money that they do, no matter what team you're on. So today against the Arizona Cardinals, you're going up against franchise quarterback. You're going up against one of the most dynamic dual-threat quarterbacks in football. I understand that people might not like Kyler Murray because, I don't know, he plays too many video games, or because he's more of a baseball player than he wanted to be. I don't know why people don't like Kyler Murray, or people don't like Jonathan Gannon, maybe because of his affiliation with the Philadelphia Eagles being one of their coordinators prior to, and the Niners fans don't necessarily respect him because of that. Well, they should. They need to, because this is a Cardinals team that, despite being 1-3, has taken both the Buffalo Bills as well as also the Detroit Lions, who might have been a hook and ladder away from losing that football game, to the wire. And the Lions, who have shown us they might be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC. The Buffalo Bills certainly have aspirations to challenge for the AFC crown. This is not a pushover Cardinals group, despite what the record might tell you. And even the loss last week against Washington, where they got lit up, is now proven to not be a bad loss, because Washington appears to have action in the NFC this year, and they have a damn good quarterback. So Kyler Murray, along with the rest of this Cardinals team, there's not people, I think, that are going to stand out if you're looking up and down the two deeps outside of perhaps him, Marvin Harrison Jr., who's an absolute stud, and perhaps a couple players on defense. But this is a team that, to your point, Lo, if you let them in this football game, the Niners are no longer a team that can just walk into a house, even get a lead, and just have the other team bow down to them. And the Cardinals have never, quite frankly, bowed down to them, because even of years when they've been bad, they've been able to steal a game here or there. The Cardinals are a team that I feel like enjoys these kinds of contests where their backs are up against the wall, no one expects them to do much, and they come out throwing haymakers. The Niners need to expect those haymakers at the beginning of this Week 5 football game.
Hey, guess who I got on the phone? I got Alabama on the phone. Ooh, what happened? Vanderbilt, right?
Yep.
Come on, bro. This is football. If you go out there and you walk out on the field and you act privileged, and they talk about, okay, yeah, got kids privilege and all that stuff, and what happened, and you go play against some kids from right across the street that said, I got to be great, what happens? You're going to get walked. You got to be hungry. And I'm not saying this team isn't hungry, but I'm just telling you, you look at Alabama, they went and played a Vanderbilt team, they're number one team in the country, could have, should have crushed them. They didn't. Why? Mindset. Didn't do the right things. Attention to details. That's no different than the pros. You could have the best team, all the talent in the world. If you aren't mentally and physically ready to go out there every Sunday, you will continue to struggle. And the Niners will continue to struggle all year long until they make that conscious effort, not just lip service. It's like, no, guys, let's get it done. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's be iron sharpens iron. Let's start playing 49er football. Because if we don't, this team today, and we let them stick around, Marvin Harris Jr., like you said, he can make plays. He is an elite receiver. If you just let those guys stick around, it can get ugly. But if you play Niner football, and you can make a mistake here and there, but I'm just saying, play sound. What you're capable of, this game shouldn't be close. And that's the part that frustrates me. So that's why, to me, I say today is a game that we see who's 3-4 in this conference, because of the fact where you're at. This is to say who's number two, or who's number 3, because you can't say you're 1 right now. You just can't say it. You can't say it, brother. You can't.
No, and Seattle's also looking at a New York Giants team that is going to be probably without their number 1 wide receiver. So they're looking at a favorable matchup to keep them above the 49ers, even if they take care of business today. Come outside the Hilton Santa Clara and join us on the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. Call 1-800-HABAS. If you are wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Evan Giddings, Lorenzo Neal here outside Levi's Stadium. Come by, enjoy refreshments, say what's up. We're at the Hilton Santa Clara having a good time getting ready for the Niners and the Cardinals. it's funny too because if you look at the rest of the NFC,
right?
The Niners are a team, and look, there's a lot of I don't know. I guess pause around the Niners right now because no one really knows who they are, and it's funny. And I think the reason why there's some trepidation or some frustration with this team right now is because it feels like we should know who they are, and we have known who they are for the last 3 or 4 years, even with different quarterbacks, even with different players. We've known who they've been. They've been a team that loves to run the football. They're a team that gets physical on defense, and they're a disciplined group with a creative play caller. All 4 of those things still apply to this team. We just haven't seen it consistently enough yet. And so it's funny that the one part of this team, Lo, that's been banged up the most has been the offense, I think. And the side of the football that has done the best job, that has been the most stable, that has been the most balanced, has been the offensive side of the football. And that's been because of Brock Purdy, and it's been because of a guy who not many people expected to step into the limelight, and it's Jordan Mason. So while people are looking for Christian McCaffrey to come back, I certainly think he takes his offense to a different level with how he's able to maneuver in the pass-catching game. He's a 3-down back, all the rest. Jordan Mason, he hasn't made us forget Christian McCaffrey, but he's done just about as good as anybody to step in for a first-team All-Pro and Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, no question. What Jordan Mason's been able to do, I think this guy's been phenomenal. I think does he have 100 yards in every game this year? Darn near. I don't know if he quite got it last week, but if you think about Jordan Mason, what he's been doing running the ball, I think he's one of the best top leading running backs in the league. As you look at those stats, let's see where he's at, far as carrying the ball. Jordan Mason's physical. He gets downhill. He's 4 yards in a cloud of dust. His yards per carry's tough. You know he's going to get you the hard physical yards. You know you're not going to arm tackle him. I like this kid. Is he better than McCaffrey? No, but I'm going to tell you right now, McCaffrey can't get those 4 yards consistently like him because he's stronger. McCaffrey's way more explosive, talking about catching a pass and taking it 80. Yes, that part he hasn't. But if you're talking about downhill running, this Mason kid is one of the elite backs in the league right now. The physicality that he brings to this team running the ball, I think that like you said, that's not the problem for the San Francisco 49ers running the ball, and Mason has stepped up and delivered for McCaffrey.
He leads the league with 91 attempts. He is second behind Derrick Henry in terms of total yards. He's averaging about 125 scrimmage yards per game. I mean, this guy has been everything you'd wanted him more.
He's been amazing. You read those stats? I didn't even know the stats, but I can tell with my eyes and watching the eye test what I'm saying. This guy's a bad boy, and he's physical. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Niners got a steal. And they turned this boy loose, and this guy is a man. He's a man-child, and that's what this team does. They can feed behind him, and you can ride with this guy. He's physical. He's built for this. He's young. This is the time you got to ride him. You ride this guy, and you ride him till the wheels fall off. This is how you got to play ball control. You look at this team. You look where they're at. I'm using Jordan Mason. I like what he's done. I like who he is. I like what he's done. And he's frustrated because he wants to show the league and the world that you don't hear if the Niners wasn't running the ball, especially with the turmoil they in, everyone, what he would be saying, oh, they got to get McCaffrey back. What is this team going to do? They got to hurry up and get McCaffrey back or this thing's going to get out of control. The national media is not saying that because they know they're not talking heads. They're not up there just going to say, oh, yeah, McCaffrey, no. Because they know this kid, what he's doing right now, if he stays the course that he is, he will be in the running for Offensive Player of the Year this year. That's how well this kid's running the ball right now. That's how effective he's being right now.
Well, and I can't even call him a comeback player of the year because he's the come out of nowhere player of the year. Like no one expected this guy to do what he's doing. He didn't come back from anything. He just basically took the reins and started running with it.
This.
I mean, he's been fantastic. And so the latest on Christian McCaffrey is that he's dealing with bilateral Achilles tendonitis. The first week he's eligible to come off the IR would be next week in Seattle. But according to Adam Schefter, there's optimism that he could return for the Chiefs in Week 7. The way that Mason is playing, and I understand he's not McCaffrey, but in a way, I think he makes the decision easier to prolong the McCaffrey return and make sure that he's 100% because you have not dropped off statistically at that position. And also the thing about Mason that I love watching is, unlike McCaffrey, He's far more shiftier. He's obviously explosive. He's got the speed. But Jordan Mason is the player that in the fourth quarter of a football game, after you're tired, after you're banged up, after you're gassed, you don't want to hit that 225. You don't want to run into that dude and field that player, especially after he's gotten the 15 to 20 to 25 carries that he's already bruised you with. So he is as much of a battering ram and a player that can basically just lean on you and wear you down in a way that McCaffrey, as great as he is, I'm not sure has that in his bag.
Yeah. When I played the game, fullback position, I remember going against the guy, the Ray Lewis, and I hit him the first time. Like, man, that boy's got a hard head. Mm-hmm. Come back in the second time, and I go even harder. Boom. Fifth, sixth, seventh, second half, going against different linebackers. And I saw him then, and I'm hurting. Halftime, I'm taking 2 or 3 Advil, maybe even another Toradol shot. But I'm like, now, that's why I wore that big cowboy collar around the neck. And I'd come back in the second half, and I'd come in there downhill, like water boy, coming full, and all of a sudden, I see guys fall down. They wouldn't take it on head on, try to shed me. Mm-hmm. It was, let me get to the ground and let me get some dirt to fall right here, and hopefully somebody else make the tackle.
Yeah.
You step in there with Jordan Mason, you might run in there like a missile, and you hit him, bow! That's a hard hit. And he gets back up, and he comes back, you hit him there, bow! That third time, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to take him down a little lower. And that's when he knows he's coming in there, and that's when he sidesteps you. And that's when he picks up another 10. And like you said, he starts to wear down on you. It's that water on a rock theory, and that's what Jordan Mason is doing. He's wearing teams down, and guys then have to make a business decision. It's not that they can't do it anymore. It's the business decision that they have to make to stand in there and hit this guy and tackle this guy, and that's when they take over. And that's why this Niner team, to me, is disappointing. That's another reason. Because when you got a guy like that can keep eating up clock, and keep converting to third downs, and you guys are still holding the ball, and you're ball controlling, you're doing the things you're doing, you're eating up, the clock is in your head. You look at the time of possession, and you're starting to win those battles, and you're finding out you're still losing games. Something's going on with your defense. Something's happening with your special teams. So when you have a guy that is a grinder, a clock burner, and is going to, be efficient, and when you have that type of offense, that's that mutter offense, a la the Ravens, 4 yards, a cloud of dust, and you keep the ball away from and do those type of things, you should be winning football games. And that's what's sad, because Jordan Mason, where he's at running the ball and how they're running the ball and how effective they are, I don't know. You should be better.
Well, and in relation to the Cardinals, this is a team that, like the Niners, has really struggled to stop the run. Last week against Washington, Brian Robinson, who's a beast of a running back.
Big boy, too.
Austin Eckler went down with an injury, but they ran for over 200 yards on the Cardinals. The week before, the two-headed monster of Gibbs, along with Montgomery and that forceful offensive line, ran for $185 against the Arizona Cardinals. This is a team that can be had on the ground. And so I think while everyone is expecting, maybe a Brandon Ayuk, who we haven't talked about much, to emerge, or maybe Juwan Jennings to get busy in the passing game, and Brock Purdy to light up the scoreboard, this is a football team that you can run against, and then, again, you can lean on if Jordan Mason is given the requisite amount of carries. And the Niners are a football team that starts with the run anyway. Yeah. That's what they build everything off of. And so I would be shocked today if Jordan Mason once again does not break the century mark, because this is a team and a run defense that is built for him to destroy.
Well, and my question is what have we seen? Why do these other guys that you're talking about, if you're running the ball like you are, and you're being as effective as you are with Jordan Mason running the ball, why do you need those guys to have huge games for 200 yards or 150? Why do you need? If you leave this game, if Brock Purdy throws for 250 yards and they have 150 yards rushing, these are the games that we usually win. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, Evan, that baffles me, and I have the fans. Brock Purdy, if someone told you today Brock Purdy was not going to turn the ball over, he threw for 220 yards, and the Niners had 150 yards rushing, you would say they win that football game.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about this, and that's why this is the way that they used to talk, and you said it earlier. You said this team is built for the run. It starts off with running the ball, and that's how effective, that's how they built to win games. And they're doing it, but they're not getting the results because it's attention to details, and they got to get better on the other phases as well.
Well, and on the other side, I do want to get into as we move into our final hour of the kickoff show, brought to you by Habas Law, right outside Levi Stadium at the Hilton Santa Clara. Come by and grab a refreshment, say what's up before you head on in to watch the Cardinals and the 49ers. I do want to get into the two most stabilizing players on this football team next, because we talked about the lack of attention to detail, maybe the coaching that needs to set up. Instead of the finger pointing, I do want to get into the praise part of this program, because there are two players in my mind, Lo, that have stabilized this football team in a way that I didn't and have expected them to, but I don't know if they knew that they needed to be as big as they've played so far. We'll get into that on the other side of the kickoff show with Lorenzo O'Neal and Evan Giddings live from the Hilton Santa Clara, up next on 95.7 The Game. One of the many reasons why I love you, Lo Neal.
You know how I do it, baby.
Well, it's not just how natural you are on the mic or being able to flow off the top, but it's also you being able to push my football mind, you challenging me.
I have to, because me and you, we the salt and pepper team. You and I, we get it, man. We understand. And the thing about it is, I challenge you, you challenge me, you don't let me get away with it, and I won't let you get away. And that's why I got this little exercise for you. And I want to ask you, you haven't seen my list. I got something for you. Here it comes.
And ivory.
Okay, listen, that he bring it. I like that. So don't hate on it, everybody. Evan, that's Evan on the mic, guys.
You?
Okay, here we go. Today, if the playoffs started and the Niners were in and they were playing Minnesota, right now, who wins? Right now, what you've seen today, who wins?
Minnesota.
Okay. But the Niners are in the playoffs.
That game would also be in Minnesota, where they haven't won in 30 years.
Okay, but I'm just saying the playoffs.
I'll take the Vikings.
Not saying how good they can be playing. I'm not asking you to.
Yeah, today.
I'm asking you what you've seen today. If they're going to play against Green Bay today, who wins?
I would take the Niners in that game.
Okay. If they're playing the Lions today, who wins?
Detroit.
If they're playing Tampa Bay today, who wins?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I'd lean Tampa.
So would I. If they were playing right now Atlanta, who wins?
I actually like the Niners in that game.
Okay. And if they're playing the Commanders today, who wins?
This is the craziest one in the world because I would say Washington, but they are the team that has come out of nowhere. Like I don't know if anybody in the state of Washington, D.C., which ain't a big state, in the state of Washington, D.C., I don't know if you could tell me if anybody believed in this football team to be – they look like they're about to be 4-1. They're up like 21 points right now at home against Cleveland. That is the shock of the NFL, and you're right. If they played the Niners today – I think I'd like Washington.
And I would too. If you said the Saints, I would probably take the Niners or Saints. Mm-hmm. But for me, I look at Minnesota. I look at Green Bay. I think the Lions. I think Tampa. I don't know about Atlanta. But Commanders, I only have them out of that list, maybe beating one of those teams today. That's not good.
Yeah, I would say 2, but still, that's not a lot.
Right.
Last year at this time, yes.
That's the thing that I'm trying to get you to realize is say, not that the Niners can't be great, and not what we haven't seen as greatness because we know the talent and the men that are on this team. But what we've witnessed and what we've seen thus far, I just can't say that. And that's the part, Evan, that's disappointing. I don't like saying it. I'm not trying to, get people fired up. I'm not trying to make people get mad like, oh, Lo Neal's crazy. I'm just asking the callers, the listeners, to tell me why they feel different. But don't give me speculations and hypotheses and just like, oh, this is what I feel or this is just me speculating. Give me facts. Why? That's all I want.
What have your eyes told you, and what do the stats show?
Yes.
And right now, I don't even think they're in unison because some statistics, I'm like, wow, the Niners have been that good there? Well, that's interesting. Another part of their football team, I'll see a stat that says, wow, I didn't realize they've been that bad in that position. But they have. So reality right now is conflicting with what we're seeing on paper for the Niners. And that's why, to kind of what I teased going into this segment, by the way, the Kickoff Show brought to you by Habas Law. Call 1-800-HABAS-LAW. We'll fight to make it right, or go to habaslaw.com. We're right here outside the Hilton Santa Clara. Evan Giddings, Lorenzo Neal. The two things about this football team that I right now feel like give me the hope to, against those teams you just mentioned, come out with a victory. On offense, it's Brock Purdy. And on defense, it's Fred Warner.
Yep.
Because while Kyler Murray has quietly been playing incredible football, Brock Purdy in his own way, I know he's not the runner that Kyler Murray is. He doesn't even have the arm that Kyler Murray has as far as just pure arm talent. But what he does is make plays in a way that Kyler Murray can, because last week against New England, he was airing it out. Even in the 2 losses versus Los Angeles and Minnesota, he was making plays happen with his legs. He, even though statistically might not be having as good of a start as he did last year, in my opinion, Lo, is a significantly better quarterback. And that's what you'd hope to see from a guy that's now in his second full season.
Without a doubt, Brock Purdy has matured and has played way more efficient, and he's playing way better, in my opinion, this year. Mm-hmm. The decisions that this young man is making, He seems like a veteran quarterback. He's poised. The decisions to get rid of the ball, run out of bounds, throw it away. I think he's playing like a veteran. It's no more, here's a young guy. This guy understands what he has to do. He set the bar high, and he's executing at a very, very high level. He's very, very efficient. I like Brock Purdy, and I think Purdy is not any part of the problem right now. Purdy is the answer. I think when you talk about the offense, and you guys talk about Mason, Mason makes his job easier because he's able to run the ball on first, second, and third down. Mm-hmm. If you give this guy the ball 3 times, I think he's getting the first down. That's the odds. That's how that usually doesn't happen with running backs. But Brock Purdy, like you said, he's been sensational. Fred Warner has been sensational on defense. So Purdy, you talk about just the maceration and how he, as a quarterback, from being 1 year to year 2 to year 3 as a starter. The guys, he's in form. He's in form.
And he's missing. Well, Debo's been available for most of the games, but he did miss, of course, the one against the Rams.
But he still had a guy that he threw for darn near 200 yards to.
Yeah, well, but that's kind of my point is, so to me, the way that I looked at the offense last year for the Niners, because this year I think they're one of the worst teams in terms of yards after catch. They're not getting guys that are making plays after they get the ball to them, which also means Purdy's not beating teams 5 yards and below. He's not getting the ball into the hands of his playmakers because there are kind of a lack of playmakers with no McCaffrey, maybe a less than 100% Debo, and not having as many pass-catching options out of the backfield. He's not hurting teams at the line of scrimmage and past it or below it. What he's doing is driving the ball down the field. And if nothing's there, I've seen him use his legs more than I ever have before. But it's not in a way that makes me feel hesitant. It's not a way that makes me feel scared that he's going to get hurt because he's smart. Right. Even when he gets into traffic, he knows when to go down. He knows how to take a hit. And that's something that you don't see from a lot of young quarterbacks. And so for Brock Purdy to already take a step in that direction, whether it's because he always had it or because now he's being asked to do it, I think he has put a lot of doubters in their place. He did so last year, but everyone who believes that, well, maybe they're waiting for the glass slipper to fall or for the carousel to turn back into the pumpkin, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, no. I hate to break it to you. No. This dude's here to stay.
He's here to stay. He's the quarterback of the future here, just barring any injuries. This guy, and the crazy thing about it is the Niners are so lucky to have a guy like Purdy. He's not going to say, I want more than Mahomes, even though he could demand it, because that's what the quarterback market does. They keep, you pay a guy like Dak Prescott the money that you paid him. I got Purdy on the phone, but that's not how he's built, and that's not what he's about. This guy just wants to win. He loves to win. You watch Purdy, this guy absolutely loves to win, and it's just interesting just to see how they take care of him, which they should. But the biggest thing is, man, he can play. He's a veteran. He's seasoned. He keeps this offense calm. Guys listen to him. They respect him. They follow him. And that's another alarming thing when you look how efficient they are running and how Purdy's actually able to keep drives going. Look at their time of possession this year, and it's just not correlating to the record. So hopefully this is that get-right game today because you're getting ready to put on new tires after this, but you got an uphill battle.
Well, and then on the defensive side of the ball, unquestionably, I mean, the president, it's been Fred Warner. He's got multiple fumbles forced. He's got a couple of picks, had the pick 6 last week against the Patriots. He's got a sack. I always wonder, like I was thinking about this today, because, I think Fred Warner would be today, if we were talking about after week 4, the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year.
Sure.
But then I'm also looking at what Aiden Hutchinson is doing in Detroit, and he's got a lot of sacks. I'm looking at what other players, specifically on the edge, have done. T.J. Watt, for example, the sack numbers that they're putting up. Yeah. I always wonder why, because this applies to the MVP too. The MVP has now become a quarterback award. But it also feels like quietly the Defensive Player of the Year award has become the sacks leader award.
Right.
I do wonder why Fred Warner can't be unquestionably the Defensive Player of the Year right now. And maybe it's because his team is 2-2. Maybe it's because the rest of the defense hasn't looked that stellar. But Fred, without Brock Purdy, this team would be in the dumps. Without Fred Warner, this team would be in the dumps. I said last week with Jason, the only thing that Fred Warner can't do is score. Well, he proved me wrong because he scored a touchdown last week. Like, this guy has literally done everything, and he's also the leader that you want off the field to motivate everybody. And Nick Bosa spoke about that glowingly during the week of practice. So for me, it's Brock Purdy on offense, but then Fred Warner on defense is the other big reason that I feel like the Niners have better football in front of them, because he has played at this level. He just needs everyone else to rise up with him.
And that's the thing that baffles me. Because like you just alluded to, what Fred does, you want guys to rise up. You look at Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson, the way that he plays, you want guys to rise up, and they do. But here's another guy that if you look at the way that he plays and everyone rises up because their team's not playing great offensively either, or not necessarily scoring what they should be, Kansas City Chiefs. Think about number 95.
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, when he gets on that defense, he can move up and down that line, and what he makes those other demands from those other guys, you can't tell me that this guy is another guy, defensive player of the year, but guys follow. The biggest thing is with the Niners, why aren't they following? You see what you see the point that I'm making, that you just like, and I'm not, and it's not that they're not trying,
of course,
but you watch Chris Jones last week hold the Chargers 10 points, 13 points. Look at Kansas City's defense. Look what they're doing, Cincinnati Bengals. Look who they played against, Atlanta Falcons, a high-scoring offense. Look what their defense is able to do. I'm telling you, offense entertains, defense wins championships. Mahomes is not necessarily winning. Everyone's saying Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes is good. Oh, Mahomes, we get it. He's a great quarterback. But their defense is carrying them.
They are.
And that's the part to me that is just people are missing and people aren't looking at it. They're like, okay, what's going on? Oh, okay, Brandon, that's not the problem. It's not the problem, fans. It's freaking your defense has usually been a stellar, and that's why Coach made a drastic move to get rid of DC, because he understood if we play good defense and we run the ball on offense and we play good, clock control and ball movement and move the ball down the field and grind and run the ball, we win. It's the other part of this team right now. The special teams, like we talked about, defense, got to get it fixed.
Well, and to hammer your point home, Patrick Mahomes is the nail.
Yes.
The defense is the hammer. And Patrick Mahomes, for example, has thrown an interception in 9 straight games.
Yes.
He's turned the ball over.
Turning it over.
The one stat that baffled me last week, and it has, I think, flown under the radar, the Kansas City Chiefs give up the second most amount of points on opening drives in the NFL. They have a top 3 scoring defense in the NFL, which means they'll give you something the first drive or two. You can get to them and score early in football games. But to your point, the Chris Joneses, the Trent McDuffies, the Drew Tranquils, they make plays late in games when they need to. And that's where the Niners, for whatever reason, so far this year, and even at points last season, have not been able to do. The playmakers that are paid to make those plays, they haven't had the moments yet. It isn't as if Nick Bosa, for example, hasn't played great football. He's still a damn good player. He's up there in terms of pressures, pressure rate. He's got a few sacks here and there. He's got some tackles for loss. But the moment, I have not seen Nick Bosa with a premium moment so far in this season. Last week, it was the strip sack against Brissett. But that's the Patriots. Right. This week, and again, there needs to be more of those moments that those players make. That's why the Chiefs are 4-0, I think, and that's why the Niners are 2-2.
Oh, yeah. There's a song, church song, God's got a blessing with your name on it. Where's that? You looking for that name on it performance. I know exactly what you're saying. You want to see Bosa have, I got my name on it, where he's just going out there and he takes over the game. You've seen Fred Warner have his name on it when he goes out there, strips out the fumble, intercepts the ball, just all over the field. His name, his impression's been on the game. You talked about Aiden Hutchinson from Detroit Lions. You've seen his name on it where he just has a game with 3 sacks and he's all over the field and he's just putting his name on it. You've seen Chris Jones with his name on it. That's the part that you have not seen. I know what you're saying from Nicky Bosa that we usually have 2 and 3, maybe 4 of those games where you're like, Nicky Bosa, everyone, Nicky Bosa.
Well, and the Cardinals, it's always funny. Like, I don't know how you necessarily judge an offensive line for a quarterback that just breaks off plays at all times. That's what makes Kyler Murray so great, but also sometimes a bit head-scratching. And this year, he's been really good. Like, we just talked about how fantastic Brock Purdy's been, all the rest. Brock Purdy right now is 6th in terms of quarterback rating. Number 7, right behind him, is Kyler Murray. So he's been equally as good, efficiency speaking, this year. And I think a big part of that is the fact that he's got a bona fide number 1 stud on the outside. And it was also funny that after week 1, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he had 1 catch for 4 yards, and everyone was like, what is going on with this guy? You know, he was taken 4th or 5th overall. He's the first receiver off the board, and this guy's supposed to be a generational, surefire, Hall of Fame talent. What the hell happened? Second week against the Rams, lights it up, 2 touchdowns in the first half, buck 20 on 3 catches. In the first half of the football game, it's like, oh, well, there he is. Right. The Niners have to be aware of where this guy is, because even if you double him, it feels like in less than half a season, he's begun to figure out answers that he can use for opposing pass coverages.
Oh, yeah. He picks up the phone, and I got, Marvin Sr. on the phone. You don't think, hey, Dad, I'm watching this. I'm sitting over my tape. Okay, they share the same.
He's a spitting image of him, man. It is crazy.
It really is to watch these guys and their mannerism and everything. So I'm guaranteeing Dad's on the phone saying, dude, I know your coach is telling you this, but look, lean on him this way, do this. I've been there. I know what it's like. Yeah. So he's out there and it's like, hey, and him and Kyler, they're getting on the same page. They're going through practice. Hey, this is what I'm seeing. When I see this guy Bracken and they're playing cover 4, that's 4 across, or they're playing cover 8, 4 underneath, 4 on top. Hey, look, I'm gonna lean toward. I'm gonna lean to the outside, and I'm coming back in. Put it there. I'm gonna be there. And you're watching these guys be on the same page, like you said, because he has the talent. A lot of guys, they say, hey, I'm gonna be there. They don't have the talent to get open. They don't have the ability. They don't have that. He has that football savvy and the knowledge, and that's why this thing is working. And Kyler Murray, like you said, he's having a good year. Unfortunately, the record doesn't show that. And just like Brock Purdy having a hell of a year, the record, 2-2 should be better, but he's having a hell of a year. So it's just going to be interesting to see which team gets off the start, because both of these two teams, the Niners and Arizona, they both believe they should be better than what they are. They believe their teams are better. Coming into the season, everyone thought Arizona was going to be competing for the NFC West championship.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are the main reason why everyone had elevated this division, because they were a laughingstock last year and had been for a couple of seasons, really since, we were talking about this during the commercial break, really since Cliff Kingsbury left. And what I know that people might not be the biggest fan of Kingsbury and they make jokes about him and whatnot, but what he's doing right now with Jaden Daniels in Washington is amazing. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the last time that Kyler Murray was posting big numbers and his team was winning big games was when Cliff Kingsbury was their head coach. So it appears that, I don't know, maybe it's maturity setting in. Maybe it's just the fact that Kyler Murray has had more experience in the league. But it does feel like now, because this guy, it's crazy how guys feel like they were drafted yesterday. Kyler Murray's in his 6th season. He's 27 years old. He's in his prime, and he's playing 6 touchdowns to 1 interception, almost 70% completion percentage this year, 105 quarterback rating. He's been playing good football. But the one thing you also touched on was the fact that the record is what it is.
Right.
I do think it's funny that the Cardinals have lost 3 games to what we believe to be good football teams. Cliff Kingsbury and the Washington Commanders with Dan Quinn now. They've lost to the Detroit Lions, who we both agree are good. Buffalo Bills obviously are a good football team. They took care of business and waxed the Los Angeles Rams. So in a way, if the Niners win this game, that does indicate to me that they're a good team, because the Cardinals have lost to good teams. The teams they beat are the teams that are not good football teams. And that's another reason why I'm not in panic mode yet. But if the Niners lose this football game, I will be pressing that button. I will be. I swear to God. I swear. I'll be hammering that button.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I necessarily press it. I'll stay consistent and say, you got to get better. You have to fix these things, or it's going to be a long season. And it's the first half. In this team, we talked about a C. I think they underachieved, so I'm switching from a C to a D+. How about that, Greg? Just because what you just said. So if they lose, I don't press necessarily panic. I say, wow, has Kyle Shanahan lost this team? I think that if they lose this game,
that's not pressing the panic button if the head coach lost the team?
Because it's not, because I don't think, it probably, it depends on how you look at it, because can he get it back? See, if the talent wasn't there, I'm like, look, if you're a certain team, like you look at a Raiders team that fights hard and whatever, they don't have the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the running back.
They're about to lose a wide receiver.
You're about to lose one of your best receivers. Do they really have the team to really compete for a Super Bowl? No. They can show you that, hey, they're a good little team. Team not played for. Cincinnati, the Tennessee Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, does Tennessee Titans have the talent to say, God, I'm panicking because
no.
You can't panic because it's no need to panic. They don't have the team.
Yeah.
They're not there. So when I look at the Niners, that's why I'm saying I don't push the panic button because I know that they have the team. In how are they going to take? There's teams out there that just don't have the team. No matter what you do, they'll play a good game here or there. That's why I'm saying, has Cal got to get back and say attention to details to get back in control of the team, pushing his coaches and assistant coaches to make these guys play at the level that we used to seeing them play and to execute 49er football that we're used to seeing them execute at that type of level. That's where I'm at, and that's where I would be if they lost. When are they going to start executing? Because the talent right now, I'm just telling you, straight up, they're underachieving.
Oh, they are. I mean, this is still a really talented football team. And again, that's
a loaded roster.
They are, and hopefully they're going to get healthier. I do think that they can still make a deep postseason run. But the reason why I would say panic is because right now they are Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
And those typically aren't teams that can win a championship because you don't know who you're going to get. They could be the 49ers of 2023 where they're running up 35 points a game and just completely blowing teams out of the water. But this year in 2024, they're also the team that could blow a big lead. They're also a team that could get pushed around in Minnesota. And if they lose to a team in Arizona today that with all due respect to the Cardinals, we know that the Niners are a better football team than them.
Yes.
It doesn't mean the Cardinals can't win the game. But the Niners are 7-point favorites for a reason. I think they have a better defense, or they should have a better defense. They have.
Are they better or more talented?
I think both, but you're right that they're not like the gap between the talent and how they've played is not as wide as it should be.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, I mean the Cardinals have been getting gashed on the ground, and that is where the Niners' strength lies offensively. So I think they'll be able to take advantage of that. But the panic button to me is more about, again, there has been no consistency with this football team, honestly, dating back to the summer with the decisions that were made as far as who's going to be traded, who's not going to be traded, who's going to be getting contracts, who's not going to be getting paid, who's in preseason, who's in training camp. All these things have lingered into the season, and those are the kinds of issues that I want to see stabilized. And I think this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it really is. You're playing a team that you can get things stabilized. You're playing a team that you can get right. But you're playing a team also that that can be very, very challenging if you're not on your P's and Q's. So I want to see how the Niners approach this game. How businesslike are they? How do they come out and start and dictate pace, tempo, and authority and show, hey, we're going to dictate. We're not going to wait for you to get hot. We're going to start fast. Mm-hmm. I want to see a team come out and start fast, like their hair is on fire, and never take their foot off the pedal. I want to see that. I want to see this place light up. The fans go crazy, and because there's a lot to cheer about. I want to see this team when you go up by double digits, that the defense pin their ears back. I want to see this team hold this Arizona team for under 3.7 a carry, 3.5. If that's what am I looking for? I'm looking for a team to say we're not letting you get over 3.5 yards of a tote. I'm going to keep you under that number. I'm looking for a team that's going to have that they win that they only give up 30% or less on third down. 30% or less on third down. I want to see a team that every time Arizona's in third down, it's third in more than 3 or 4. It's more than 3. It's more than 3 or 4. I want to see if a team can win the statistics that then bend the curve for it to bend in your favor. That's what I want to see today. I don't want it 3rd and 2. I don't want it 3rd and 1. I don't want it 3rd and 3. I want to see it that 3rd and 5 to 7. I want to see it because now I want to see that you on first down, you lend them to 2 yards, maybe 3 at the most. I want to bend the odds where it turns to the Niners' favor, where championship type of teams are built, and that's how championships are won. That's what I want to see this team play championship ball from the beginning in the stats. That's what I like to see today.
And we're half hour away from seeing that right here at Levi's Stadium. We are outside in the Hilton Santa Clara, outside of Levi's Stadium at the Hilton Santa Clara, site of the Kickoff Show. Every home game during the 49ers season right here, sponsored by Habas Law. If you have been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-HABAS or visit habaslaw.com. One final segment rolling on to the other side. People are pouring in. One last chance to stop by and say hello on your way inside to Levi's Stadium. Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings, this is the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game. We're back after this.
Gangsta party. Ain't nothing but a gangsta party.
It is a party here outside Levi's Stadium at the Hilton Santa Clara for the kickoff show presented by Habas Law. Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings with you. One more segment until the 105 kickoff between the Niners and the Cardinals. We'll have our predictions coming for you just a little bit. And but before we get into some things that we have really enjoyed about the season so far, Lo, I did also kind of want to go through the rest of the slate because, look, we're about one quadrant in, right? We're about 25% away. I know we don't have the 16 games anymore, but we got 4 games in. If I asked you right now, the cream of the crop, atop, we'll start with the NFC. Right now, who do you think is in the NFC's best 4? Because we've established the Niners, even though they have the ability to be, the talent to be, are right now not there. Who is in your top 4 as far as the NFC goes?
Well, it's got it easy. It's not even a no-brainer. Minnesota Vikings. What they've shown, the teams that they beat the Niners. You look who the teams they beat. They beat the Jets. You think about who Minnesota has beaten, they've beaten Green Bay. And Green Bay, by the way, was down by 20 in that game, made that a hell of a game, had a chance to win that game. They found a way. When you're 4-0 and you're finding a way to win ball games on the road, at home, and you got to be mentally, we talked about attention to details. They're not turning over the ball a lot. They're playing mentally sound football. You look at the Minnesota Vikings, the way that they're playing football, attention to details, and to be in the mindset, the way that the defense, the way that their offense, they are on to something right now. Minnesota Vikings, hands down to me, is playing really good football. All 3 phases, they're playing good football. I think when you look at the Lions, they're playing good football. A little inconsistent on the defensive side of the ball. Aaron Glenn, buddy of mine, played with. He's a good DC. Looks like they're giving up a little bit too many points. So I look at the Lions, even though they're a good team, I think they're one that's still one of the top 4 in the NFC. You look at Tampa Bay. They're a team that fights. They find a way to win. They're right there with Atlanta. And so flip a coin there. But I also the Commanders. I think the Commanders, what they're doing in the NFC, even though I didn't talk about Seattle, because I think the Commanders are better than Seattle. I look at the Commanders, the way they're playing. I like them. I like them a lot. They're going to score. If you can't score 21 you can't beat them. You're not going to hold that offense under 21. They're just that good. So for that reason, what their offense can do, I like them a lot. So those are a couple teams that I could go through that say, hey, look, those are the best teams in NFC to me right now.
I'm with you. I think I would have Seattle over Tampa at this point, but you're right as far as those 3 other groups. And again, I think Washington is a team that just entering this season no one expected much of. But right now screams consistency. And they're an upstart group with a basically playing with a chip on their shoulders, and also Minnesota. It's like they got the best scoring differential in the NFL. It's not as if they just kind of blown through a couple of these games and squeaked by and eked by. They have been top to bottom the best team, I think, arguably even in the NFL, because you can make a case that the Chiefs are a team that, though they are 4-0 and are going to be playing again to basically match them, they're a team that has gotten by the skin of their teeth. So the Chiefs are a team that is, they got the best quarterback and all the rest, but the Minnesota Vikings have been the most impressive team in the NFL to me this season.
Minnesota's beat some good teams.
Well,
they beat the Niners.
They beat the Niners.
They beat the Niners. You think about who they played.
They killed the Texans.
They beat the Texans, who was undefeated at the time.
They beat the Packers on the road with Jordan Love coming back. And then
the Packers, and they beat the Jets. So
in London, which is not an easy trip to make.
Yes, so I think when you look at them, to me, they have played a great schedule, one of the toughest schedules, and they're undefeated. That's why I'm not just saying because they're undefeated. I think who they played merits them to be ranked number 1.
And they also play in what I think is the best division in football right now. The NFC North, I think, is the only division that doesn't have a below 500 team as it currently stands, because it also looks like the Bears, who are 2-2, are going to move to 3-2. So they play with the Packers, who obviously are legitimate. The Vikings are atop the group. And then you look at the Bears, along with the Detroit Lions, who have reason to believe that they can fight for the 1 seed too. So, I think Minnesota and Detroit, to me, have been the 2 most impressive teams in the NFC. Third would be Washington. And I think you can kind of split hairs with the 4th group. I would lean Seattle. You lean Tampa. And then in the AFC, obviously the Chiefs. And then it kind of gets interesting. Like, I think Baltimore's losing right now. I still think Baltimore is a damn good club, even though they're 500. Houston is a team that I don't know if it's because they're in Houston. I feel like people might just be sleeping on them, but I think they've been fantastic.
Are they winning today?
They are currently winning today. They're beating the Buffalo Bills right now.
Yeah, I know they're playing Buffalo, so I was wondering if they're going to hold. I know they had a double-digit lead earlier, when we started the show. So don't know where that game is. Want to see what that score is, but I too.
And I like Pittsburgh. I think they're buttoned up and they're physical. Yeah. The Texans are up by 3 right now, left in the fourth.
Yeah, the Steelers. Yeah, Texans are up. I think but the Steelers, they just play solid football. And don't be surprised if they go to Russ Wilson if that offense starts to struggle. Mm-hmm. But I just think with the defense that they have, they just don't make mistakes. You got to look at them. I think they're a top 5 team, AFC. Of course, you talked about Kansas City Chiefs. They're right there because they're the Chiefs. But it's a team that finds a way to win ball games. But I do like the Texans. The Texans can light you up. They can score. They got a quarterback. They can run the ball. It's not anything they can't do. Baltimore, to me, as far as running the ball, yes, they can run the ball, but Baltimore's inconsistent. You don't know what Lamar Jackson's going to do. Lamar Jackson, some days he can throw the ball, and some days he's inconsistent throwing the ball around the field. So I don't trust Lamar Jackson. If you're losing by double digits and he has to carry your team to win the game to throw the ball, I have not seen that from Lamar Jackson. For that reason, I can't think that's why I can't look at the Baltimore Ravens as a top tier AFC team, because I know you are going to have those games that you're down by 14 and you have to throw your way back in. And I just don't think he can do it consistently. He hasn't shown me that in 5 years. It
is ironic that the two teams that the Chiefs last beat to get to the Super Bowl and win it are the 49ers and the Ravens. And both of those two teams have looked less than the sum of their parts so far this season. I don't know if it's a late season, off season hangover. I'm not sure if it's the fact that they might have felt like they should have beat the Chiefs in 2 close games in the championship and in the Super Bowl, but came up short, and there's some residue left from that. But for whatever reason, they have, both the Niners and the Ravens, I think, been a little below at least what I expect them so far. And so that's why I'm excited again for this game today against the Cardinals, because I think it's a game that they should win.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't want to say should, but I think they certainly can beat the Cardinals. They're a touchdown favorite for a reason. And I think it also, to me, legitimizes what they did last week against a Patriots team that I expected to cakewalk through, and they did.
Yeah, and interesting because we talk about the AFC. I don't think there's any great teams in the AFC. Of course, it's hard for me to say that because what the Kansas City Chiefs have done the last several years has been pretty amazing. But after the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo's, they're okay. It's Josh has to do a lot. It's not that they're a great team, but after you get past Buffalo, if Buffalo, the Steelers, offensively, they're not going to light you up.
Yeah,
they're going to win it. They're going to win it behind Watt defensively. So I think you have one dominant. I don't even call them dominant, but one team that's just is Kansas City because they're the champs. But besides that, if you told me you take Kansas City and you can have the field, I mean, who in the AFC that really it's going to say, okay, they really when the chips are on the table, are they going to challenge? I don't see the AFC. You look at the NFC, there are some teams that can beat you up any given weekend. That the NFC, to me, is just tougher.
Yeah, I don't think, and that's a good point. In both conferences, there hasn't been a team, well, perhaps Minnesota, but even something, maybe it's just because it's the Vikings or it's Sam Darnold or it's a lot of players that I think nationally folks are unfamiliar with. Outside of them, there hasn't been a sure-cut, dominant team. No. I know the Chiefs are undefeated. They have not looked dominant to me. The Niners certainly have not looked dominant the way they looked last year. I'm just looking up and down the standings from last season. Baltimore was a team that looked dominant in the regular season last year.
Right.
The Niners obviously looked dominant. At least for the first half of the season last year, Philadelphia looked dominant.
Right.
So far, there is no team in the NFC outside of the Vikings that has looked dominant, and that'd be another reason for optimism for the Niners.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I'm telling you, that's why I look at the teams that you talked about, the Chiefs. They look dominant on defense to me.
Yeah.
When you think about their defense, show me who scored over 24 against them. If you think about what they've defense been able to do, keep the Chargers to under 10 or think 10 points. You think about Minnesota. Think about the teams that they've been able to play. Besides Green Bay, got in a little shootout. But you look at what their defenses have been doing. I think that their defenses have been dominant, and that's why these two teams are 4-0, in my opinion, is because their defense, not their offenses.
Yeah, and it's funny because also a lot of times I think at the beginning of the year we feel like the defenses are in front of the offenses, but that hasn't been the case for the Niners. It feels like the offense has been in front of the defense. And so, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's been a month now and it's been 4 games and that rust is starting to wear off, but they certainly have the talent on defense to be a top 5 group, certainly a top 10 group. And right now, they just have not played like it, at least over the course of 4 weeks consistently enough for me to label them that.
Do they make a move? Are the Niners going to make a move as far as with their win, in the win-loss column? Do you see them making a move? And also, do you see them making a move before the trade? And if so, where are you going? Where are you leaning?
So that is a great question because I do think they make a move. But I wonder about which side of the ball because I don't think their defense needs that much help. But last year, I also didn't think that their defense needed that much help. They went on and got 2 defensive linemen, Randy Gregory, along with Chase Young, who proved to be, nice additions. The year before, it was McCaffrey. It was the offense that needed some help. This year, I do think that it's going to be a defensive player, but I'm not really sure where because I think it does depend to me, Lo, on how good Dre Greenlaw is when he comes back. Because they have been eviscerated at that secondary linebacking spot. Devondre Campbell, he's a professional. He had a nice year last year in Green Bay. He has not played very well this year. Also at the edge, Leonard Floyd, he gave 2 years, $20 million to. He has been a serviceable player for the better part of a decade. He has not been the same player so far this season. So I think from now until the deadline, those would be the 2 positions that on defense that I would try to identify and address. But I also have to give the benefit of the doubt to those 2 guys to let them prove to me that they don't deserve to be players that you're trying to add to their positions for.
Yeah, I think that you look at, losing Hargrave, even the grave digger, he's out for a year. I think you got to get better. I make a trade. I try to look
in the trenches.
In the trenches. To me, you win championships are won and lost in the trenches. I get it. Someone in there that can keep Fred Warner. You're talking about an MVP. You're talking about a guy you said playing MVP type of ball, defensive player of the year, in Freddie Warner. How do you ensure that he keeps doing that? You get someone at that nose, that in the 3 technique. You get some more guys that keep him clean. The reason why Ray Lewis was so dominant and why he played so well, he had Hanadi Nodi. And he had Jeff and then Big Syracuse.
Syracuse and Nada? Yeah.
Hanada Nodi. So, but they kept him clean.
Yeah.
You got those guys that would hold the center and hold the guard, so now Ray Lewis could get downhill. They would grub. So when you have 2 big guys or a guy that can hold the center and the center and guard, it lets the linebacker play on that side of the ball, and he doesn't have to run a hump. When you have a nose guard that plays that 3 technique and that center and that guard pushes him back 3 to 5 yards, now the linebacker can't read, and now he's got to stay behind that, and he's got to run the hump. And now the running back he's playing downhill. When you have a guy that can stop at the point and hold those guys, now that linebacker can shoot gaps and be more efficient. So I'm keeping Freddie clean. So I'm investing in that defensive line to make sure I keep Fred Warner clean. I think about giving him maybe some draft capital. Also, I look at my quarterbacks. I say, hey, I got Dobbs here. I got some guys here. If Dobbs is your 3, why the hell are you going to keep him? I mean, why would you not go get something for him? Because he can play, and he's a serviceable quarterback. Teams will put this guy in a minute. So if I'm hurting right now and I think that my window's closing, because I got to pay more guys next year, we got to figure out a way to try to get back on the right side of the track and try to make sure that you got some, not just a guy, but you have some more depth. You have some more stability. So I'm building in the trenches because I know that's what it's going to take to win a championship is building the trenches.
But also what you said about Fred Warner and using linebackers using their defensive tackles, I think that makes what Fred's doing all the more impressive because if you look at other top-flight linebackers, so last year it was Fred Warner and Roquan Smith. Like those are the 2 best middle linebackers in the game. Roquan Smith has Madubuike, who's a pretty decent defensive tackle. You go down to C.J. Mosley in New York. He's got Quinnen Williams, who's a damn good defensive tackle.
Yep.
Fred Warner, I know that Hargrave is good, but he's out.
Right.
Fred Warner has not really had that stud in the middle the way that even a Patrick Willis had a Justin Smith or Navarro Bowman. Fred Warner does not have that, and so he's making a lot of things, a lot of these plays happen himself, and just another reason why, just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, that he has been unbelievable this season.
No question. And you watch Fred, though, sometimes Fred's plays are downfield. After the first down, he's punching out balls. When you watch when Fred is really humming, Fred sometimes shooting gaps and he's making tackles in the backfield because it's clean and those guys are holding him off, and now he can shoot that gap. They can't come off and knock him off. So when he's playing really great ball, he's playing usually on the other side of the ball. So I agree with you. But if you have a great nose and a great 3 technique that can keep guys off of him, you're going to see Fred continue to flourish because he's just that type of a backer. So, yeah, there's some things that this team can do to get better. But today, you know what? It's not about necessarily it's not about bringing in guys because today is the roster. Here's a game that you're going to depend on, Trent and Banks and, Jake and all those guys that you have that you got to play, Clinton and, Kittle, all Debo, Mason. This is your offense. You can't change that. Your defense, you got Bosa, you got Floyd. You got to make sure that these guys do what they need to do. Elliott. So you can't change right now. So today is about how do we get better? How do we get better with the men that we have on this team? How do we get better just looking at our roster and saying, okay, let's go. Let's go Hufanga. Let's go AJ. Let's go Brown. Let's go. If these guys are going to be the guys that's out there, Tavares, Ward, who is going to step up and play good football to keep this team from saying, hey, we're going to be 2-3 or we're going to be 3-2 and start to build, start to put the hand to born, because we have to get better. So that's what this is about today. It's not necessarily about thinking about the future. It's about saying, how do these guys, how do the team that we have today go out here and dominate and start playing the ball that we know we're capable of?
Well, with that, as we wrap this up on here on the Kickoff Show, live from the Hilton Santa Clara, as we are every single 49ers home game during the 2024 season outside of Levi's Stadium, let's get to our predictions, because I think that this is an interesting game to me. And it's one where you don't want to be back underwater. Like right now, the Niners this season, for the first time in Brock Purdy's career as a starter, were below 500. They were below water. They got back, and now they're treading this week at 500 after beating the Patriots. All right, let's see if we can try and get out of the pool this week and get above 500 against the Cardinals team that is a beatable group. And I think it starts with the run game. I think it starts with Jordan Mason. I think everything runs through him, quite literally. And even though he is the backup entering the season, he has been an absolute star for them. And he has been, I think, large in part, along with Purdy, why this team might not even be below where they are right now. So Jordan Mason, I think this is a game for him. It might be even a 150-yard game the way that the Arizona Cardinals give up gashes on the ground. I think it's also a reason why the Niners win this game. I'm not sure it's as dominant as people want it to look, but I think the Niners win today. They move to 3-2, and the score is 49ers 27, Cardinals 20. So I would take a push, actually.
Yeah, I think this game is something like 30. I'd say over 30. If you told me to go over under, I think they score over 30, and maybe the Cardinals get 17-20, 21, 17, 30-something to 17, 30-something to 21.
Purdy for 30?
Yeah, 30 for Purdy. This Arizona team doesn't get over 21. They don't score over 21, and the Niners go over 30. It's just this team is due. They're due to put it together. They're due to show, give the people what they want and just play the type of football that they know they're capable of. And they're tired of hearing all that. They're tired of hearing the inconsistency. You talked about it. I'm talking about it. Everyone around the league is talking about why is this team so inconsistent? Mm-hmm. Where is the consistency that we're used to seeing? And I'm going to tell you right now, I know they talk about Christian McCaffrey coming back in a week or 2 weeks. We'll see. This team starts to play like we know they're capable of. I don't think you see Christian McCaffrey the whole year. Why? Shanahan loves this guy as a player and as a person. He's got two, not just one, but you're saying two Achilles tendonitis or whatever it may be. He travels across to another country to go try to get this thing fixed. If you are playing well enough, why would you jeopardize? I don't see Shanahan. I don't see this organization. I think that if they're playing the way they need to, I don't even think they're playing this year.
Wow. Well, with that,
Hot take, baby.
That's
I leave on a hot take.
No, we've been bringing them out, and that's what we do every single Sunday right before the Niners play, whoever they play. Today they play the Arizona Cardinals at 1:05 right here at Levi's Stadium. A big thank you to everyone listening, everyone that has chimed in. Big thank you to Cam Williams back in our studio. A reminder after the game to tune into Overtime. Mark Grandy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett. After the final whistle, the 49ers and the Cardinals win or loss. They will break it down 16 different ways. So tap in after the final whistle right here on 95.7 on Game on Overtime. Also, big thank you to Joe Hawks here producing for us today
up, baby?
at the Hilton Santa Clara. Big thank you to my man Lorenzo Neal. And again, a big thank you to everyone listening to the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-HABAS or visit habaslaw.com. For Evan Giddings saying so long, we'll talk to you next time on the Kickoff Show.
Peace.